Welcome, guys. Welcome to this episode of the Dragon's Journey podcast. And I'm joined by my guest, Mark Lane. Mark Lane, would you like to introduce yourself and tell my audience a bit about yourself as well?
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Buckley. Thanks for inviting me on. It's really, I love to share knowledge, and I've been an entrepreneur for the last sort of 18 to 20 years. My journey started as a young man, 14, starting a little gardening business, just with a few friends, just to make a little bit of money. Wasn't an academic person, so school was not my thing. I wanted to create my own path. I had to go to college for a year just to improve grades because I wanted to be a garden designer. From that point, I knew that education was not for me. I needed to be in the workplace. So I took on a job as a labourer in a landscaping company, and very quickly I discovered that actually I was never destined to work for someone. I was a good employee, but I did a lot of work for myself on weekends. Got to the age of 22 where I decided that was it. I was starting my own business. From that point, we've been a steadily growing paced small landscaping company. We've grown into a team of about 18 people. And I was able to create my own path where I want to be a designer. I couldn't go through the traditional methods because you need the qualifications and you need that type of thing. So I managed to carve my own path to become a garden designer. From that design path, I think I've always been heading towards wanting more, and realised that actually business is something I value more than anything. So beyond the job of a designer or a landscaper, it's business that I really, really enjoy. How I can take things, put processes in place, and have people around me who can, follow through. Because I've always said I'm definitely not a typical entrepreneur. I've got the ideas, but I haven't got to follow through. I like to be able to put things in place and allow better people to carry on from there. Since then, I've now had the opportunity to start a couple of other businesses. One which was an existing business called Nuvo, which is a product specialist, which at Grand Designs where I met you, where we were displaying part of our garden design and of product. So I'm a co-owner of that. And I've just started a relationship with another company, which we will be making products as well. So being able to transfer those skills in business over those last 18 years has really gave me a kind of a good understanding of how business can, those skills can be transferable across other platforms, starting as a designer and then, and then starting with products. And selling products, that's something I didn't know about, but I'm just using the bits that I am good at within that business, and that's what they've asked me to do. So that's me in a nutshell.
Oh, wow. And it sounds like a good strategy as well, because your side of the business and what could help benefit your customers based on the experience in that business. And then now you're making products that align with that, and it helps drive revenue up, which is insanely incredible, to be honest. You said at the start when you were in college stage, you said you'd also be doing jobs on the side. What would those jobs include?
So it was all garden related. So I had started with the company I was with when I started when I was 16, and this was just as a landscaper or as a labourer. It enabled me to then do private work on the side. So I was never fearful of work. I would work 7 days a week and did for years and years and years. Couldn't do it now and don't want to do it now. But at that point, I knew that was the only way I would grow my own portfolio, was to have the stability of a job. I had a mortgage at 18, so it wasn't like I could just jump into my own, thing. I had to grow that. So I probably did that over maybe 2 or 3, maybe 3 years. I was doing weekend work. So this was for private customers, building gardens, designing gardens, that type of thing. enough to get me enough understanding of the job to be able to run a business. Don't get me wrong, I made a lot of mistakes in the first 5 years, things that I thought I knew how to run a business, but running a business and having a job in that business are two different things. Yeah. And be able to, be accounts, be marketing, actually be the worker, offering the service, all these different things. It's very difficult as that entrepreneur to be all of that. It's not till later years that you can actually employ people to do those jobs for you. But to begin with, as starting a business, you just have to accept that you've got to do them all. You're not going to be great at every single bit of it, especially if you start a business from a trade or as what I would call the technician, the person doing the work. To be able to be great at that and think, I can run a business, you'd always be in for a shock, because those skills are so different. But you have to almost accept that if I'm going to start a business, because I love doing the job, if I like baking cakes, or I like, making signs, or I like doing gardens, getting into a business because you're good at that isn't necessarily the right attitude. To go into business, you've got to be thinking, I want to create a business, and actually the product of that business is something that I can let go of. You can't hold on to it, because that is what holds you back as a business from growth.
Yeah, because once you start running your business, you realize the very thing that you love to do, that's the reason that you started, is something that you might have to outsource, because you have to focus on everything else.
Yeah. That's right. And there's only so much time in the day. When you take out how many hours of work you've got and you start to slice that job down into all these little jobs, it's amazing how much little time you get for each job. It's so you either you make a decision where your things will fall apart in areas that you're not giving attention to, or you do what most people do, end up working 80 hours a week, because it's physically the only way I can do 5 people's jobs is by having double the amount of time a normal person would put into it. So I think having that for anyone starting a business, I think that's just the most important thing, really, is to understand it's not going to be easy. You'll probably earn less money than you would being employed to begin with. Definitely your hourly rate would be shocking. It would, you might, you'd be thinking, oh God, I could work for Tesco stacking shelves for more money, for the hours I put in. But you've just got to have that belief, thinking that this is short term for bigger gains.
Yeah, and I think it's the price that you kind of have to pay at the start until you've got all the skills that you need to and all the puzzle pieces together and the portfolio and brand behind you to then get way more clients, so then you can hire people, and then you're just like, this is a lot easier now, because you've done it the hard way. So you've essentially paid the price to then live the luxury afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. No pain, no gain, as they say.
Yeah, literally. But in terms of, when you first said, I'm going to move into starting my own business, what was the first client project that you did under your own business? Do you remember it? Or
I do. It's stuck vividly in my mind because it was awful. It was for, this is going back 18 years ago. So what you could get, I think that project was about 60K. Now that for me then was huge. Now that's probably almost our starting point, or, it's a very average cost for a garden. But that was huge. So I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I knew the job, but I didn't know how to manage project properly, ordering things and meeting clients' expectations. I suppose I always had the boss who would then do all the customer liaison thing, and if there was issues or changes and that type of thing. So that whole thing was such a massive learning curve, and I didn't have anyone. I had one labourer who was a 60-year-old man. Great. He was very unfit. Well, he just, he wasn't a young man. So it was tiring. It's But I drive past that. It was on a front garden, and the design was, when I look back at it now, was awful. It was just rendered wall, big planters, very garish. She had a big kind of water trough that ran all the way through it on a front garden. I walk past that when I go on my walks. I walk past that still now today, but it's still standing. It's still there, 18 years on. So it stood the test of time. It just hasn't. But it wasn't a proud project. But what it did do, it enabled me to get cash in bank from day one and gave me that cash injection which I needed. It was a very profitable job, which was really good. Probably gave me the illusion that every job will be profitable. So again, another lesson learned. I thought every project was going to come out with a big reward, and sometimes they just don't, because it's really in our industry, it's really hard to manage profit. Your margins are really difficult because it's not like selling a product. It costs me X amount to make, sell it for this, and that's my margin. In a bespoke career like this, like landscaping or anything that's bespoke, and worse for landscaping is you're so dependent on what the sky's doing. So just you cannot manage it. You have expectations. You know your cost. You know your material cost, your raw labour costs, your overheads. You can factor that in, and you can put a margin on there. But that margin is, you're almost starting at a margin, and you're hoping you're going to reach that. It's never going to go above that. You're just going to hope that you'll manage that as much as you can, because if you get 2 weeks of rain, that's your margin gone. So it's very difficult. Very difficult.
Honestly, that seems tough, to be honest. And I was more so thinking it'd be just the hours put in. But now that you mention it, the weather would change it drastically, like the delivery time of a project.
It really does, yeah. And obviously if you've got employees, they're being paid regardless. They're regardless of whether it's sun or shine or whether we finish on time, or you still have to pay those wages, you still have to pay those insurances, you still have to pay hire, all of that kind of stuff. Those costs do not change regardless of whether you're bringing cash flow in or not. So it's very, very hard to just manage that. So you just have to go in every project with your fingers crossed and hope it all goes well.
Yeah. I was going to say, so what would you say has been the most challenging part for you so far?
Growing pains, I would say. It's, like every business, I guess, it's a chicken and egg situation, isn't it? Let's just say you put a ton of money in marketing, but you're not ready for it because you haven't got enough staff to cope with it or the right processes. Or you can go the other way, where you get more stuff in to cope for when there is demand, but then you're overpaying at that point. So each stage of growth, we need, we're going to take on bigger projects, which will need more staff. Well, do we get bigger projects first and then worry about it and figure it out later? Or do we overstaff now in preparation for those big projects and they don't come? Or, it's just the growing pains, I think. Definitely the biggest challenge is that any business, any growing business will face is the chicken and egg situation, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. Because that does sound tough, to be honest. Just thinking about it, because you never really know how to balance it until you just got to deal with it, I guess.
You do. Yeah. And I don't think you ever make. You've just got to make the most educated guess you can, and that's all you can do, really. You have to go. Like with anything, you kind of the philosophy of which I kind of believe in. I'm probably a little bit safe in that, but there'll be a lot of companies out there that will just say yes to everything and figure it out, and it will either work or it won't. I think that's dangerous, because especially if you're saying yes to everything and you cannot offer that service, it can be very damaging for your business. Yeah. On the other respect, you can be too cautious and your business doesn't grow. And the problem is, if we don't grow, we have to grow regardless anyway, because inflation and everything, it's a trajectory. You have to grow just to stay where you are. Because I think I read somewhere that you need to be earning, I think, at least 10% every year more just to stay as you are. So that's not growth necessarily. It's just keeping with the growth of, the economy. So really you need to be increasing 20% to be actually growing and beyond that.
And yeah, it makes total sense. I was also going to say, I don't know if you're aware of Daniel Priestley. I heard him say he has a waiting list for all new clients. I was just wondering if you implement that now with the whole balancing of employees plus projects coming in with your marketing.
Yes, we do. We do have a waiting list. We have, on probably a lot of aspects of it. Definitely, we're going through at the moment. We've got a lot of new projects on the board. Some take longer than others. We have to manage expectations. So we have got people on waiting lists just to get consultation with us. Try to keep it too long. At the moment, I think we're sort of 2-3 weeks that they will be updated every week on where they are with the queue. Definitely easier now through COVID. COVID was ridiculous. We had hundreds on a waiting list. Now we could only deal with 10 a week. And I mean, even that was too much. And we had hundreds. So I did an interview with one of our clients, a testimonial, and I forgot that, but she had waited basically 6 months just to get a call. So we kept her in the loop every week, but 6 months from her initial inquiry to when she actually got a call. But because we communicated it well, she waited. So she waited 6 months and then we built it the year after. So that was great. Some people are impatient. I think we're all impatient now. I think the whole, what I call the Amazon era, next day delivery, we want to be able to pick up the phone, get a quote there and then, be job done and move on with it. People are genuinely inherently impatient. So a waiting list is not good for the consumer in their initial response, but obviously once they're on board with you, then they appreciate there's a waiting list because your focus is on them. So it's hard to, you have to kind of explain all that. A waiting list, which I do love the idea of waiting lists, like the whole Rolex thing. I don't know if you know about that, when they stopped selling Rolex and started selling waiting lists, and suddenly the demand was massive. So I think when you're selling product, waiting list, being up, it just gives it that kind of, I want to be on that list, so I think as a product, selling waiting lists over selling product is probably more beneficial.
Yeah. And thanks for that context as well, to be honest. It makes a lot of sense. I'd also say, during COVID times, what would you say has been the toughest period for your business journey so far?
Probably the start. The start. We've had tough times. This year's been tough. The bubble burst. People aren't so much in a rush to get the gardens done. They're a little bit more reserved with their cash flow or with their spend. So you're having to do a lot more kind of talking through the process, and you're having to change all the time and adapt to and that's what you have to do in business. You just have to adapt. You can't have one process and that be it forever. You kind of have to review it all the time because things change. But I would say we have our challenges every single day and every week and every month. So you're never free of challenge. But definitely the most challenging was the start, because you haven't got a name, you haven't got staff, you haven't got a reputation, you've got no marketing, you've got that. The startup, the first few years is horrendous. You're going to make it or break it, really. And I think that's why a lot of businesses fail in that first sort of 3 to 5 year period, because it's so tough. And you question it. You question every day, what am I doing? Because I had a nice cushy job and now I haven't, and now I'm, so I think I would never, ever, ever want to be there again, starting off. Even though I know I'd go back with a lot more knowledge, I don't think I could physically take that first part ever again.
Okay. That kind of beats the next question because I was about to ask you if you were to start again today, how would you go about doing it?
Simple. I
Right.
wouldn't. No, I think if I had to, gun to my head, and they said, you've got to start again, you've got no choice. I think there is so many lessons I've learned along the way. The only thing I would say is hindsight is brilliant, isn't it? You have that regardless whether whatever stage you're at. You always have this hindsight where suddenly you go, "Oh God, if I wish I knew that then, and I'd do it differently." But that's just not life, is it? It's just reality of it is that we only know what we know because of the journey we've been through. And if I started again, I probably would have gone as a business brain. I would have thought, would I go into a business where I can't manage my profit margins? That would be a good business model, would it? So I definitely went into a business that I'm passionate about. Went for it because I absolutely just love landscaping, love gardens. I just love it. I just love the industry. Just love the world that I'm in. So I've done it my driving point was a lot of, it's passion based. So it's not good business. Not to say it's not good business. It's not something that you could turn a service business in. It's very hard to turn a service business into a multi-million pound business. It just is. It's not like products. You can only sell so much service.
Yeah, there's only
without
a running amount of time in the day. At the end,
Yeah. Obviously, you can have, you've got your teams like we've got. We've got a few teams that work on projects at the same time. For us to grow, we would have to grow those teams, which means that it's so reliant on skilled staff, which is a big issue in our industry. There isn't the skilled staff. If there is, they're very singular to one type of trade. So to get in landscape, it's a multi-trade. So it's very difficult to grow that. Of course, we are looking at the moment of bringing more trusted subcontractors in, which we are rolling out at the moment. And that's working really well. As long as we are good in management, we're good in customer service. We don't make the customer feel like they are having somebody else in their garden. As long as they offer the same values as us, they work in the same methods, it all comes through us. I think we can manage that. And that's the only way we can grow that business is by relying on other smaller companies to assist us in what we do. So getting back to your question then of what would I do if I started again? I know I didn't understand cash flow as well then. I didn't understand the importance of it. Having cash in the bank, not just buying things willy-nilly, thinking I need the latest tools, I need the latest van. You don't. It's actually better to have that money in your bank, struggle buying what you've got until you've got enough left over to buy these things. So I think we all kind of I want the lovely office. I want the lovely, lovely car to drive around in. I want all these lovely, lovely things. I think really the lessons I've learned is, does any of that cost grow or help my business? And if it doesn't, then don't buy it. Keep that money in your bank because you need it sometimes when you have business, and unfortunately it's not a straight line. It's up and down, and you've got to navigate those, and sometimes cash is king, and sometimes cash gets you out of those low spots and keeps you going back up. So that's probably what the biggest lesson of.
okay, that's totally fair. I was going to say, you mentioned as well about like hiring people. When was the moment you realized, actually, I can step away from the business a bit, like take a break, essentially, instead of working, like you said, all the hours in the day? When would you say that?
The turning point in my business, I started, it was lovely because after a few years, we wanted children. And I, at the point, felt that people could only see me on weekends because they were at work. Obviously, that's changed now. They just have to come out of work. It's just we don't do the weekends. So but we got a bit more kudos about why you should come out of work for us. But back then, it was kind of just to serve them. So because I was working every weekend, I knew I wanted a 1 day a week off with my kids from when they were born. So we called it, my eldest is called Oliver, and we called it our Ollie Day. And I loved that. It was just me and my boy, and we had that till he went to school. So 1 day a week, just loved it. And I had that with my second as well. So for me to be able to have that day off, I knew I needed at least to be able to say, everything's good enough to leave 1 day, which felt impossible at that time. But I brought on my little brother, who's been with me 16 years. So Lee is really like my second, right-hand man on site. He controls the site. He's just brilliant and what he does. And he's just offered such an amazing, just so much to the business, enabled me to actually focus on business, him to be able to focus on the projects and the staff. So Lee's my project manager. And he's, like I say, he's been with me almost since the start. So having Lee, who at the time didn't understand landscaping, so I had to train him up, but he developed very quickly. That enabled me to step away a little bit. Of course, as you grow, you step away, then you step back in, and you step away, and you step back in, because you think, oh, that's sorted, but now we've got new challenges, I need to get back to this, so you're kind of up at the now. But the one thing that really sticks in my mind is I was then started to become more office-based. So it's a few years in. I haven't been actually on site for about 10 years, I would say. Still dip in, but I've definitely not been reliant on site for at least 10 years. I had my niece, and they must have been going, maybe this was about 10 years ago, was just having a gap year out of uni. And we invited her in just to help me a little bit in the office. 1 day a week, just to tidy things up. And I didn't think I needed anyone in the office, because I thought there's not enough for her to do. Oh my God, from that first week, I went, oh my God, you need to work full time. Like, suddenly realised that the stuff that she could be doing that I didn't need to do, all the admin side and the ordering and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, God, no wonder we're so like unprepared when we're on projects and everything's not signed off and everything, because I haven't got time. I was kind of touching everything, but not really completing stuff. It is an attribute of mine as well, that. So she started full time. She was with us for about 18 months and then went back to uni. Melissa, who's been with me ever since, who's absolutely amazing. She followed that lead and she ran the office, really, the ordering, and still now she's like absolutely brilliant. There's not a lot she doesn't know about the business now, So that, I suppose, that gave me my time back. And then we've obviously, over time, we've got more people in the office. My wife has joined the company as well a couple of years ago as operations director. Our most recent employee has been Matt, who's really the estimator side of it, sales arm. I thought I could be the only one to sell because I'm the only one with the passion to do it. And it's proved me absolutely wrong that I don't need to be there. So I now do 2 days a week for landscape, yeah. So to go from full time in it, where I thought I cannot leave this business, to now 2 is more than enough for me to just come in, help where I need to help, give some advice, do some production meetings, and that's all I need to do. So I'm pretty free from definitely the day-to-day stuff. I'm not included in that. I don't get involved in how projects are run. The whole team have a production meeting every Friday. Do all the management, and they run it, and they do it together. And now I'm, like say, I'm free to get on with, not to slow down, because that's just not me. I'm free to start these other ventures, which I'm very passionate about. And it's enabled me to do what I needed to do, was to make sure that my wealth was not supported by one thing. Because if landscape went, that's my money gone. I've got no other way of earning. I wanted to make sure that I was more diverse, that when one thing was slow, that the other one would pick it up. So I think I just wanted to become more diverse, use my skills at its optimal level. No point putting me in an admin role because I can't do it. It's just no good at it. I'm just very good at talking, good at sales, good at finding opportunities, good with people. I just need to be in that role because that's where I excel. So now we've got other people who offer different traits who are just picking up the bits that I used to do. So, yeah.
Honestly, that is such a great journey. I was going to say as well, like for anyone that's got a landscaping business, how would you best advise them to let go of being in the business? Because it seems like
Well, I've got a lot of people in the industry that I'm friends with. We go to networking events and we just, it's such an amazing, honestly, it's just the most friendliest, helpful industry in the world. It's just, everybody's got each other's back. It's just lovely. So my element of it is that I'm very business focused, and I've got people who are, massive on Instagram and, that type of thing, who are just very task driven. They're just very focused on the actual products, like putting in and, making gardens. And you've got people who are really focused on design, and, you've got all these different attributes. Now, my thing is business. So my first question to anyone is, okay, so what's your progression plan? And they're like, what's that? I'm like, well, when are you not going to be in the day to day? And they go, never even thought about it, just this is what I do. So, okay. So, and then my answer is always, I know you always want to, but we all get older. It's a really physical job. Like, it takes a toll. If you're the one that is reliant on bringing in work because you're the one that's, the main guy on site, if your back goes, where does the money come into the business? Because that's it. So they go, okay, yeah, no, I kind of get that. I get that. Like, I need someone. So they might bring a second right-hand man, but they're still very, very much involved in it. And that's okay if you've got other people who, you don't always have to leave site because you need to do the management stuff, but you need someone to do the management stuff. So you either employ above you or you move yourself away from it. Fundamentally, if we're not trying to actively grow a business which can work without us, it's not even a business.
Yeah.
It's just a subcontracted job that you kind of do. So business, I should think, should always be on the basis of, can it be franchised, which means that you've got so many processes in place, you've got all the kind of links all put together that you can go, right, I could take that business and I can put it anywhere in the world and it can just run exactly the same, like the McDonald's franchise. Most landscaping businesses are basically good because of one person, because of them. That's what people are buying, them as a product. But if they decide not to do it, that's why most landscaping businesses have a life shelf on them, because they cannot continue without that main guy or main woman. And I just really like to kind of just make people think a little bit more about their progression plan, really.
And it shows how you then branched out into creating products as well. So it makes total sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I was going to say, what would you say? Well, we have the end of 2024 now. What would you say are your main plans for maybe this time next year?
Well, I want to run for Prime Minister. I'm going to go for that first.
To be honest, you've got a good chance of winning.
I would love to do as a personal goal. I'd love to get on TV. I'd love to do some presenting or something in the gardening industry. I'd just love to do that. There is a bit of a business part to that, is that obviously the bigger my name is in the industry, better clientele we may get into the business because of being the celebrity name or whatever it is. But in truth, it's just vanity, really. I would just like to be on TV.
To be honest, even when I met you at Grand Designs, I was like, wait, you seem like you would be like you've been on TV or some like the way you communicate
Thank
is
you.
just like so on it. I was like, have you ever done a podcast? Because it seemed like so natural, like it's in you kind of thing.
I just love talking. I think that's all it is. But yeah, so in business, then I suppose I would like to nurture the new businesses. I want to still nurture landscaping, my core business, to just excel, not to grow. I don't want it to grow in terms of turnover. I just want it to continue solidifying and being better in processes and just improving, but not growing. Growing maybe 10%, obviously, just to keep with natural growth of the economy. But I would just love to make these other businesses like Nuvo. I'm really responsible for the B2B side of that because it lends so well with my connections and what we needed from Nuvo personally in our business. Being able to take that business model into lots and lots of other garden design businesses and landscape businesses, and saying we offer a service which is a product service. So these products can be bought from here and one from there, but come to us and we can then supply the whole package for you, for your client, or the CAD work. We'll do a white glove delivery so they can be dropped off, packaged, taken away, give your customer that best service. I'd like to just keep working on that and really pushing that B2B service with the great story of that. I actually created that with Nuvo for my business, so I know exactly what it needs to be. So growing that, and then obviously on the product side as well, having a bit of creativeness in that as well. Being able to create, like you may have seen at Grand Designs, we had these laser cut planters on our stand. This was our prototype. This is one that we created, there's nothing out there on the market. So being a bit more innovative on products and being able to know what I know from my personal knowledge, what we're missing in product form, and create those in aluminium products. So that's my kind of goal over the next 12 months, I would say.
Yeah, that sounds amazing, actually. And I was going to say, do you also like, because when I was searching your name up on YouTube as well, I found another podcast that you were in as well. And then I also was like, since you love being on like camera and talking and stuff, have you ever thought of doing like a vlog series for your company, just showing how you run it and everything like that? Because that would be one way.
Probably would. I would say it gets back to me as a personality, I suppose, really. I'm not a doer. So if it requires a lot of effort to get something that I don't really understand, then I need other people to take leadership of that, because it's not something that, the kind of technology side of it, the YouTube and all of that, I can quite happily grab a camera and start talking about something, but I need people to take that information and put it where it needs to go. I know my weaknesses, and that's not a strength of mine. There is a discussion with, I can't mention who they are, but there are a couple of people in the industry who want to start a podcast off with me in there as well. We're just trying to go through the format of it, of how it works. It would be such an amazing thing, but we do believe at the moment there's probably too many captains, and really, and we understand in podcasts that you only need a couple of faces, otherwise it kind of clouds out. So we'll be starting some lives off anyway, some collaborative Instagram lives. We'll start off there, and we'll just see where it naturally progresses to.
Man, I'm excited. You'd have to send me the link to that podcast episode, and like just to follow the journey of hopefully you being a TV star one day as well. But honestly, it's been great having you on. Is there any ways you'd like the audience to get in contact with you, see what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can check out, obviously, our Instagram. That's Landscapia, Landscapia Garden Design and Build. I'm on LinkedIn as well. So Mark Lane, Mark with a C. you can always contact me on there. I'm quite active on the socials, so that's probably always the best way to contact me. If anybody does want just, snippets, I don't say I know it all, but if people just want snippets of advice, I'm more than happy to offer some time just to kind of help if people need help. I think it's good karma to give, and you may also be a person who may be able to offer me assistance as well in other ventures and connections. So yeah.
Honestly, it's been great having you, and thank you guys for watching this new episode of the podcast. Take care.
Thank you very much. Bye.